Hello, everyone. We got cut a little bit short today on the virtual assembly for the financial stability section. So we wanted to make sure that we covered everything that was in the back of the presentation around earned revenue, particularly because it is going to set the stage for some things we're going to do going forward. So we wanted to make a short little video that just covers everything so that if there are any questions, you can send them in and to make sure all the information that we needed to get out is gotten out. So let's back up a little bit to unrestricted income. It is called earned revenue, sliding fee scale, social enterprise, all really names for the same thing of nonprofits generating their own unrestricted income through products or services versus being granted money or given money by foundations, corporate partnerships, or individuals. We went through two examples, one being the Girl Scouts, one being Goodwill. Okay. Again, it can be lucrative, can be a cash cow, but it does take some time and effort to do the research, to make sure it's connected to your organization, and to have an investment, whether it be time, money, space. You will have to make some investment, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But it is helpful to go minimally if you want to pilot, although you may be fully prepared to jump right into the deep end of the pool, and that's okay too. We talked about that really in the center of these three circles is where you want to be as far as knowing, yeah, it might be something that's right for us. Starting bottom left with marketable assets. Does your organization have something, product or service, that somebody else, be it an entity, be it a city, be it a person, be it another organization, is willing to pay for? If you do, you then want to go to market opportunity. What does the market look like for that product or service? Are there a lot of customers? Are there a few number? Is the market growing? Is it seasonal? How much do people tend to spend on things, products, and services like the thing we want to sell? And then lastly, up at the top, what is your organizational capacity at the moment to do this work? Are people maxed out at the end of the day? Do you have some people with a particular expertise? The top circle, organizational capacity, is probably the easiest of the three to overcome if you're unsure to begin with. And the reason is you can always partner with somebody else. You can hire seasonal workers, you can get college interns. But if you don't have a marketable asset, it's hard to have a business based on something you don't have. If the market says we don't want that, we don't need that, we're not willing to pay for it, it'd be hard to have a business. But again, the top one can be overcome with partnerships or temporary hiring, where the other two, you really do have to have a solid foundation for it to make sense. However, if you're able to end up in that middle section because you have all three, then you're probably in a pretty good space. We talked about how your mission umbrella covers the work that you do in your 501c3. So all the work of your blue square is covered by the 501c3 designation that you have gotten from the IRS for all your mission-related work. Most times organizations will start that earned revenue inside their programs, inside their existing business, by doing a little bit of stuff on the side. You begin to bring in some money. It's at the point where you begin to grow, or it becomes distractionary for your organization that you're like, maybe we should move these things outside, particularly if they're not related to your mission. We talked about the example of the Girl Scouts, that they're building good female citizens in their blue square, and selling cookies to folks in their community helps them be good citizens by learning inventory management, financial skills, community involvement, public speaking. All that is tied to their mission of building good female citizens, so it is covered by their mission umbrella. However, they now sell things like candles that smell like the cookies in stores and locations where you don't have to deal with their mission, the troop that they're trying to build up. So those activities are not covered by their mission umbrella, and so they are legally separated out. An example, if you were to try to take your purple square outside of the blue legally, here's the range that people can tend to go for, at least with their first legal status. Starts internally, you might go LLC. You might do a subsidiary 501c3. You could do a benefit corp. The range of possibilities and what that means as far as funding, as far as taxes, is laid out on this slide here. Okay. 3 core resources for you to look into should this be something that A, you want to pursue, and B, even if you are doing it, maybe you want to expand, maybe you want to do the next thing because you have found that having that unrestricted income is quite attractive, and so you want to try the next thing. The first resource is on the left. That is publication 598. Again, it's the line-by-line detail that the people around the corner from me in the DC office of IRS read through to determine whether they believe as an organization that your purple square belongs under your mission umbrella. You can read it as well. Middle one takes all of those types of legal foundations that you could set if you legally separate out your purple square and gives you a little bit of background on each. Pros and cons, things you might need to consider when you're thinking about legally separating. And then again, the Reuters Foundation organization takes those same legal designations that the middle one does, but really does a deep dive into each. Again, it's about 130 pages or so. So you want to make sure you acknowledge that before you hit print. But it's a really good deep dive, particularly for those maybe folks in the accounting office or legal office who really want the line-by-line detail. You'd be able to utilize these resources to do a little bit of research. So again, sounds great. Lots of money to be had. Yes, true. But there are risks. Organizationally, again, if you think back to that top circle around organizational capacity, you really have to have the ability to put one more thing on people's plates. It requires attention, it requires skills, and you may even have to go through a culture shift. If you think about earned revenue is to make profit. A lot of the activity that you may do in your mission organization is subsidized. It's not meant to make money. It is meant to serve people, to rebuild. And so having a shift of having to tell perhaps a customer or someone who wants it, no, because they don't have enough money can be difficult, but it's something that an organization can work through if they're interested in pursuing earned revenue. In the middle, financial. Starting that purple square, the new thing that's going to bring in money to the overall blue square, it takes investment. You may think that people really want the activity that you have chosen to do in the purple square, but maybe they don't want it as much as you think they do, right? And you could lose money. Every dollar that you invest in your social enterprise, your earned revenue activity, is a dollar that you are not investing in your mission umbrella, in the big blue square, which is the mission and purpose for your overall organization. So it does involve risk financially if you try to pursue this. And then lastly, reputationally. For those of you who are a little older, you may remember back in the mid-90s or so, there was a relationship between the Sarah G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation and Yoplait yogurt. When that relationship started, the pink ribbon from the Cancer Foundation was about this big, and it was just in the corner of the yogurt cans because people weren't sure how people would accept it. Is it something reputationally that would work well for both? They came to them with an appeal and a deal for that relationship. But as people got trust in it and thought it was good as far as reputation for both, you may have noticed that that pink ribbon got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point that the entire can was pink, as well as the top thing that you peeled back. Because just like you can benefit from a reputation of connecting with someone or having a new business that connects to someone, there are the downsides as well. If something doesn't go well with your purple square, do people then turn and look at your blue square in a different way because of that reputation? One way that people sometimes try to move the squares separately is you could name the purple square something different than the mission organization it comes from. Now, that would allow you to get rid of the bad reputation, but at the same time, it doesn't allow you to leverage the good reputation that the blue square has. So it is a double-sided coin that you want to make sure you're thinking through both options when you're thinking about the risk of your reputation or the benefit that could come from the reputation as well. Overall, there are risks, and there will always be risks for something new, but you can do the research, you can do the background work to make sure that you're mitigating the risk as much as possible, because you could probably never totally alleviate it, but we're going to try to do our best to mitigate it. Okay. So if you are looking to start a purple square, or to perhaps take the purple square that already exists and maybe take it to a different customer segment or take it to a different location. What are the steps that you would go through as an organization to make that happen? Number one, we talked about goals. We'll get into that. It all leads to why your organization is doing this in the first place. We'll also focus on how do you take that assets that you're thinking about leveraging and how do you identify some opportunities that make sense. Further down the line, we'll get into what you then do as far as conducting a feasibility assessment, looking at your business model, planning to make the thing happen, and then launching something to see what the market says and the response to what you put together. We utilize this example here of Pine Street Inn, which is a homeless serving organization in the Boston area, which has some really good examples of how you can take this and really leverage it into a main focus of your organization. Pine Street Inn does emergency sheltering, they do supportive housing, they do street outreach, they do workforce development. So they have taken that one example that we talked about, wrapping their cell tower, and expanded it into multiple businesses that all feed money back into their blue square of homeless services. Okay, so the number one thing if you're going to do this is to ask yourself why. And here's kind of the lines of goals that you want to be thinking through. If you're over here on the A line, you may be saying to yourself, we are a mission-focused first organization. Everything we do is through the lens of ending homelessness or addressing this population's need and serving them. That's the lens we take. You could be totally on the other end. We will do whatever it is, legally within limits to bring additional funding into our organization so we can then feed it to the programming that we have. The example that I gave you about the alcoholic beverage company who wanted to wrap the tower, some organizations may have said, you know what, we're willing to take that check. Do you know how many new beds we could put in, how many meals we could serve if we took that money? There is not wrong, it's not right. It's just you as an organization have to know where your decision is on this line because it will drive all the decisions that you make. For some organizations, that would not have been a conflict for interest. For others, it would have. But the discussion needs to be had so that one side of the organization isn't telling a customer who calls, no, we can't help you for whatever reason. Let us recommend you someone else. They call a different day, get a different person, and that person is starting a contract. Organizationally, you just need to know where you are so that all your decisions can come together and be in the same vein. So let's talk about then, you want to do this. What are you leveraging? How are you going to go about it? You've decided, let's say your goal, we're a mission organization. Everything we do is going to further our work. So what are we going to leverage to do this new social enterprise to earn some revenue? You want to be thinking broadly in the sense of what does your organization have? What does your organization do? And what does it know? Most times, if you were to ask someone who's working at a company, hey, what are your organizational assets? They would probably name something in this have list. We have a building, we rent a couple trucks that we turned over and now we own them. We've got space here. We've got $10,000 in the bank. It's a physical asset. Something you can touch is typically what people name as assets. What we want to do is think a little broader than that into the realm of what does your organization do? What are your processes that you are bringing to bear that someone else, while they may be able to study, to start something new, to get up to speed, you are doing it so well that it is more efficient for people, mostly cheaper as well, to come to you who's already doing it versus for me to wait for this other organization to get up to speed. They may not do it as well as you. They may not have as great a reputation as you. If I'm choosing between those things, there's an asset because you've got a knowledge around the thing that you do that other people don't. There's an organization, Fair Chance in Connecticut, who they process a lot of first-time home buyer loans for people in their programming. They do education for first-time home buyers. They give loans again. They did it so well that other organizations in the Northeast started to ask them to process their first-time home buyer loans and then give them the results, and they would take their clients back through their other programming. They have now developed a business where they do a vast majority of first-time home buyer loans in the Northeast for other organizations. for something they were already doing for themselves, but they just did it so well that it was cheaper and more efficient for other organizations to pay them to do it versus trying to do it themselves, to hire people to do processing, to build the background technology, to log into all the systems. They were doing something, and now they charge other people to do it as well. You also want to be thinking about what is it that your organization, which is the combination of all the people and systems inside, what does it know? And the easiest example here when you're thinking about things that your organization knows is this is essentially consulting. If you have ever hired a consultant, worked with a consulting firm, brought in folks to do a project, they are coming into you and you are paying them for their knowledge and experience about a thing. It could be a process or a system or analysis of how to look at reports, but you've paid someone for their expertise and knowledge. They're coming and sharing it with you. And yes, you could have hired people to learn how to do that. You could have hired people, brought them in-house, had a whole department that would do it. But it was cheaper and more efficient to just hire the folks who know it already. And they tell you about it from your perspective, and they got paid. What are the things, if you step back, that your organization knows? So every person, their daily job, the things they touch, the things that they do, they then sort of know some things, learn some things that day. That is organizationally what your organization knows. And so when you're thinking about, well, what can we leverage to build earned revenue? Again, you want to be thinking, what do you have, which is traditionally what folks name, but what do you as an organization do better, more efficient, differently than other folks? And what do you know as an organization that other people might be willing to pay for? So let's say you sat down. All right, Tanya, we're going to think through all those things. We got 3 buckets. I'm going to make a list. This department's going to make a list. We're going to come together and put them all together. Most organizations are probably going to have a fairly robust list to start. But like most things, you can't start with 30 businesses or 30 earned revenue ventures. How do you narrow it down so that you're starting with a couple that we can really put some focused effort? Because remember, step 3 is to do a feasibility assessment. What we want to do is basically just throw them all into the end of a funnel. We've got these 7 opportunities as an example. It could be coffee shop, rental space, lease out space in our building, be a property manager, provide on-street services. It could be a number of things, but we're going to put them all in this funnel. Then we have some screens that they're going to go through. The first is our organizational goals, where we started. Did we say that we are a mission organization? Everything is about addressing homelessness in our community? If we did, and let's say one of our opportunities is a late night dance studio. We've got a building close to some college locations. We know we have parking there. We're going to have people out 2, 3 in the morning, bring in some DJs, have a good time. Does that further our mission? Maybe, maybe not. What if we rented out the same building with the parking lot to organizations that work with our populations? That's a little closer to being a mission organization. So that first option of the dance club might not make it through that orange screen of our organizational goals. Or the second one, maybe renting out to organizations who work with our population, that would make it through that screen. Second screen then would be ease of implementation. Let's take those 2 same examples. If, let's say, we just have a big open space and a parking lot, could we really have that first option of a dance studio with parking? We would need equipment and speakers. Maybe we need to build restrooms out. Who knows? That might be a little tougher than if we're just renting space and people are maybe coming in and making bags that they're going to deliver to the population, or coming in for open sessions where people can come in for a cooling station or a warming station during winter. If we had less work to do for the second option, then it would make it through an ease of implementation before the other one that required a little more work, because it was just easier. It's not that either are worse or bad or better or not better than the other one, but it's how easy would it be for us to do where we are as an organization. So some things are going to get caught in those first 2 screens. The last one then, what are your financial and market potential? You might do some research. You should do some research. And you find for each of these 6 or 7 options that you put in there, coffee shop, dance hall, renting space, that based on your market or where the market you're looking for, some of them are going to be more lucrative than others. Again, you want to be thinking about what your goals are for this particular term. And if you have said it's about mission, some things made it through. These are going to be a little easier. Some things made it through. And now you're saying, okay, well, how much would we be able to bring in? What does our market research say? Which ones meet our minimum? Some are going to pass through and some are not. So at the end of the day, in this example, opportunity 7, 4, and 3 made it through. So those would be at this moment, the top and best opportunities that we would want to think about doing some more focused research on in a feasibility assessment. One thing to think about here as well is this is not necessarily a static process. It should be iterative. We were to do this today with 7 examples of opportunities, 7, 4, and 3 come out. Let's say next week, next month, next year, something happens with the federal government and they change a law. Or we get a new mayor in town who has different priorities, or something helps us with the health code and now our building has to be re-upped in a different way that it didn't before. If you go back and look at the funnel again, different opportunities might come out. That's why it's important to make sure you don't get rid of that big list that you started with and that you just keep an eye on the market, not only because that's where your potential customers are, but you want to be acknowledging what's happening out there because it might change how you look at some things along the way. So let's say you did that. You've got your opportunities. I wanted to give you an opportunity now for you to think about your organization using a funny example. And I was so sad we didn't have a chance to get to this today. There is a zoo in Woodland Park, which is out in Seattle area, called Woodland Park Zoo. And they were one of the first to start an initiative around selling animal waste as a product. So I'm just going to leave it there. It's called Zoodoo. And so first off, before they even sold an item, they saved $125,000 in what they were paying to have it hazard removed. Long story short, they had a docent who worked there. She came and asked one of the handlers if she could take some animal dung, I think it was elephant, home to put in her garden. Okay, have at it. But she also happened to be a master gardener. And she was telling all of her friends that she knew what the animals were fed and what sort of came out the back end and how great it was for her levels and pH of soil and what she was able to grow. And so more and more people started coming. And it developed over time to where they now sell it as a viable product in their zoo. Did a little research, and actually the Denver Zoo used to sell products like this, and it was called Zoop. They don't do it anymore, but they used to. And if you think about it, it's an asset that they already had. And who would consider, animal waste an asset? But it was. It's not so much that they already had it, but somebody else was willing to pay for it. Can we make a business around it? If you look now, you can buy it in these cute little plastic containers in the gift store, along with your t-shirt and your stuffed animal. If you are really serious, you're farming, they have every year, it's called a fecal fest. Did not make that up. You can look it up. And you can come like our friends over here in the white truck and buy it by the tonnage. They have so much demand for this product that the poor little animals cannot keep up. And so they have a lottery system of folks coming to the Fecal Fest. You have to put in your lottery, and if your number is pulled, you get to come and get your tonnage of this stuff. There's a program manager, Dan, who they love all the names. They call him Prince of Pooh, the Grand Poopah and all the things. But it really is a funny example of really thinking, what does your organization have? What does it do? And what does it know that somebody else might be willing to pay for? That is the essence of earning revenue. One of the cues and clues that have worked for organizations is if you've ever had anyone calling and asking about something, that's a good indication that there might be a market for it. If you host events or you give things away and you have other people asking, well, how much do you charge? I'd love one. I don't need it like the constituents, but I'd love to have one. What is that thing? Are there more people like that? Requests from potential customers should always help weight you and drive you in a certain direction if you're looking to pursue earned revenue. So now that we have our example here, one of the things, if you go back to the email that was sent from the original before the presentation, is there is a template there. And it gives you the opportunity to spend some brainstorming time on handout number 1 for you to think about your organization. I would encourage you, if you have more than one person who's watching this video or part of the Thor initiative for Lift Academy, to do this separately. Because if I work in accounting and you might be direct services with some of our programming and somebody else works out frontline with some of our partners, what we experience at the organization and what we would list as things that we have, what we do and what we know is going to be different. And you want everyone's full list so you have as big and robust a list as possible to then compile them all together. Because the accounting person is going to say, well, we have this technology and we have this knowledge. Somebody who works with your clients might think, well, we have this and we have this process and this is how we do it over here. Everybody's going to have a different perspective, and you want all the perspectives when you first start. Secondly, once everybody has done their individual lists, you combine them all together, then you want to just take a step back and say, okay, what opportunities kind of rise to the top and come out of this list? If I, in accounting, say something about our particular proprietary software, maybe we can lease it to other people. That might be an opportunity. If the person who works with our clients says, well, you know what, we really have a trust level that people will travel across districts to come to our services, passing somebody else who does it. That trust, what can we do with that? Would people be willing to have us do a speaker series because they know that we know what we're talking about and people trust us? You would be amazed at what you can really find your entire organization has, does, and knows if everybody just takes a step back and thinks about how they do their work. We have a posted here back soon because we will be utilizing this exercise and the thoughts around earned revenue in our next couple of learning circles and virtual assemblies. So if you start this work, please keep it in a place that you have access to, because we would love to be refining it as we go along. Okay? You should have already received or will be receiving, depending on the timing, a copy of the survey for today. We ask that you take time and let us know if it was valuable for you. What are some things that you'd like that were covered? What are some things that we can add in additionally that would be beneficial for you? We would love to hear so that we can tailor our offerings to what you really want to learn about. So from here, again, we went over this a little bit today, but just wanted to take the last minute to do so. Everything that we do is going to be on the Advisors Lift Academy landing page. You can find it all there. There's the link as well as the email address. From before today, slides from the virtual assemblies that we have had are on the site. Today's videos, both the earlier one and today, as well as all of the attachments and resources that we went through, will be on the site. Going forward, we will have a learning circle that is driven by the comments you give us in your survey for today. You tailor it, we're going to listen and develop it. Following that, we will also then have a secondary, lower level, more detailed financial virtual assembly that takes the concepts introduced and then dives into maybe the silos or the areas that are most of interest and or use to you. So we will do that. Then on October the 23rd, we're going to give you the opportunity to bring all those things together, the work that you've been doing. And if you're interested in developing a business plan or a pitch that you would like people who invest in these type activities and these ventures, you're going to have a chance to give a Shark Tank example so that in a safe allied space, someone could say, this was great. You know, if you were in my office for real and you gave me this 3-minute pitch, I would tell you X, Y, and Z. But what I really want to tell you is, look, you got to fix 1, 2, and 3 over here. You're telling not the same story. What you really need to be focused on is whatever the case may be. We want to give the opportunity to practice and get some insights to say, now we're really cooking with gas. We've got some insights. We've been able to hone our message. Maybe we should go to the board and see if this is something we could really bring to bear. So that is what we're going to do going forward. Again, please let us know how today's series went. Sorry we ran out of time today. We want to know the things that worked well. We want to know the things that we can do better so that we can tailor the activities going forward to get you what you need. Thank you all for being part of the Lift Academy, and we'll see you soon.